Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? Alaska was really shaken up, but not. It was rattled. There was a 6.2 magnitude earthquake that had more than a dozen aftershocks that hit yesterday during our live broadcast. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, this happened in Alaska, in Willow, Alaska, very near Anchorage, Alaska. According to CNN, it was a shaker. Well, there were two people watching our live broadcast that happened to be in the chat room in Alaska live when this earthquake hit, and they called in, and we talked to both of them on the air. Let's go now to Gypsy, who is about 60 miles from the epicenter, a 6.2 earthquake in Alaska. And has just felt this 6.1 earthquake. Gypsy, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, how are you?
Hello?
Yes?
Oh, hi, Pastor. God bless you. Well, I can tell you we were reeling and rocking.
Okay.
Yes.
But now, let me ask you a question. You don't have to tell where you live, but can you tell us how close you were to Willow, Alaska?
I'm about 60 miles out of Willow.
And you could really feel this thing pretty hard, huh?
Pastor, it hit so hard that my videotape that's sitting on the shelf about 3 feet away from me flew off the shelf and beat me upside the head.
What? Your video?
I'm telling you, the whole place, at first, it just sort of vibrated.
Okay.
It was like a little vibration, and I thought, are we having an earthquake? And then all of a sudden, it was like, bam, like somebody hit the place, and it rocked real hard the one side, then came back to the other side, and it did that several times, and then it sort of mellowed out, but was still sort of like vibrating. And I mean, my fan was sitting on a counter. It's on the bed now. I have several things on the floor that were on shelves. I'm going to have to go around and pick them up. My husband, he drives a forklift inside of a brick building. He called me, and he said that 4 times the wheels of his forklift, which he was on at the time, came up off the ground and tipped over to the other side.
What? It's
I'm serious.
It tipped over the fork truck?
Just up onto the wheels. It never went over, but
Right.
it tipped over onto 2 wheels and then tipped back over onto the other 2 wheels. And it did that 4 times.
Wow. I mean, I used to drive a fork truck a lot when I worked in a grocery warehouse years ago. And I can tell you, they're built with a counterweight system so that they won't flip. I mean, you're lifting 7,000-8,000 pounds on a forks, and they won't flip. I mean, for a fork truck to even rock would take an amazing amount of force, an incredible amount of force. So here's my question to you. Is there anything locally there? Are you hearing any reports out of Alaska? Is there a tsunami warning? Is there massive damage? I mean, look, you're 60 miles away and you got stuff flying off the shelves. So what's happened in Alaska?
Well, I have no alerts coming up on I have up the Weather Channel alert where all the alerts come out for Alaska, and nothing has come up there yet.
Well,
they haven't even reported that there's been an earthquake.
Well, it's because we're always ahead of the game. You know, here's the thing about it. They just upgraded the earthquake now from 6.1 to 6.2. So they didn't downgrade this one. They're upgrading this one. And yet they probably are overall downgrading it from what it really was. I mean, it could have been a 6.8 or, we don't know. But for what you're describing, 60 miles from the epicenter, to have stuff go flying off the shelves, for your husband to have his fork truck literally come off the ground and rock, there has to be some damage out there somewhere, unless the epicenter is in the mountains and the wilderness, because Alaska is such a wide open frontier,
Well, now, Willow is a very, very small little town. And the building, I don't think they've got a two-story building anywhere. I mean, it's very little. So, there's a lot of barren ground around Willow. So it could be possible that this was in the barren ground around Willow. I don't know. But I do know that the mountains are actually on the other side. So I am between Willow and where the mountains were. So this had nothing to do with a volcano.
It wasn't a volcano, of course, as she was saying. It was an earthquake. But besides Gypsy feeling the effects of this earthquake, so did Cindy. Now, Cindy was in a different location, and she was within 45 miles of the epicenter near Anchorage. And let's go check out this phone call. She was the next caller. So let's hear what she had to do. I'll have to just scan a little bit, all right? Quake that has really rocked Alaska, and it's happened in the last few moments. And I really appreciate the fact that you was on the line. You were actually in the chat room when it happened, and you're not. So I mean, how long did
play, which is very suddenly now works. so
okay, here we go. I'm sorry. You're live. Who we got? This is Cindy.
Hi, I talked to you a while ago. My name is Cindy. I live in Palmer, and wow, I got my boys up out of bed fast. It wasn't stopping. It just kept. I heard it before I felt it, and I actually thought it was a plane. But I thought, wow, he's kind of rumbling, and then I felt it, and I went, oh, wow, it's a quake. And usually you just sit and you wait a minute, because it usually will stop. It wasn't stopping. So I grabbed my boys across the hall. I have a workroom across from them, and I said, get up, and let's get out. All I know is I want out of the building. And so we flew out onto the porch, and we just stood there because you stood there and it seemed like it was going to stop, and all of a sudden it gave another big rock, and I went, just stay here, just stay outside. There's nothing going to fall on us out here.
So I mean, how long did this go on? A couple minutes?
It seems that way when you're in one, but it's not. I'm sure it wasn't very long, but it did seem longer than what they normally are. They're normally just a little shirk or a little jerk or a little rumble and a sway. But this was a little longer, and actually I didn't feel it in the house. You couldn't see anything, but you could feel it in your feet, that it was still underneath, maybe doing some stuff, even after I decided it was safe to come back in. My hall light in the hallway that I thought was burnt out suddenly now works. So I don't know what happened, but I'm checking everything now. But I didn't have anything fall off. Of course, I don't really have shelves up, but my piggy cage moved, so I had to readjust that. It wasn't anything major.
Now, what's your first name again? I want to get it right.
Cindy.
Cindy. Okay, Cindy. Now you say you're in Palmer, Alaska.
Yes.
How far is that from Willow?
Oh, I do not know mile-wise. I really don't. I know I'm 45 minutes north of Anchorage.
I don't have a clue.
Talkeetna is where the USGS, I think they were saying southwest of Talkeetna. I want to say Willow's got to be probably 40 minutes, again, going west from us.
So you're
go ahead.
Yeah, so you're maybe 45 miles away.
Yes.
Okay. So you're a little closer than Gypsy, but of course that doesn't, which way's the fault running, which way, there's a lot involved.
If she's in Anchorage, Alaska feels it anyway, but a lot of Anchorage is built on what they call bootleggers code. Clay, which is when an earthquake hits, it turns into nothing, and so Anchorage, I'm sure, and it depends on where your house is built. You know, you can live in one house and the house can be across the road and they won't feel it the same way you will.
Right.
You know.
Now, this earthquake they're reporting is 102 kilometers deep, which is probably around 75 miles. I would just, that's quick math. That means it's quite deep. So for you to feel this, for Gypsy to feel this,
we didn't just feel it, Pastor Paul. I heard it. I heard it, and it sounded rumbly. And then I felt it, and it felt the same way it sounded. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. It sounded rumbly, and it felt that way. Under your feet. What was interesting is I thought, well, I'm feeling this in my feet. Usually, I don't think I've. And I was here years ago. I mean, goodness, it had to be. I don't know what year. It had to be '02 or '03 when we had the 7-point or 7.1. And my boys were sitting in the living room. They didn't feel a thing, but it depends on the type of quake. You have the jolty rubber band type, like in California. Alaska generally has the rolly type because we're under mostly a subduction zone type quake. So it hits, but it's generally not so jerky.
so you're saying this is the strongest earthquake you've ever felt, for sure.
No, the strongest I felt was the 7.1. I was in the kitchen and thought, wow. I felt seasick because it was a rolly quake. But this one, I actually was wondering if it was getting close to that because
they've
of
just
the way it felt.
They've just upgraded it again now to 6.4. So see, they're not done with the calculations.
Yeah, see, I thought something was up. I got on Facebook and I said, wow, what was that? And my friend said, hold on to your hat because, you know, we get aftershocks. And the funny part was, I was just thinking this morning, I thought, now you got to get ready because you know the earthquakes are coming because it's that.
Well, you know something? I was so appreciative to both Gypsy and Cindy for being able to talk to us, share with us their actual experience of being in a 6.2 was the final numbers by the USGS Geological Survey. 6.2, I'm telling you, they are purposely downgrading the numbers now because we're in the last days, and it would frighten people to know just how big these quakes are now. So they keep downgrading them. Well, folks, Jesus said in the last days, you would see earthquakes in divers places, different places. But he said these are all the beginning of sorrow. So truly, give your life to Jesus Christ because we're living in the last days. I'll be back with more current world events, how they relate to Bible prophecy and the powerful Word of God.